What I thought I would do is I would just walk you through the budget process that the town of Okotoks follows. So the budget process really consists of 10 very distinct and unique cycles that take us really on an annual process. So every year you'll hear the town starting to talk about we're beginning budget. Well, guess what? We begin budget in February and you don't actually see council approve the budget in November. So between the time period of February and November, I'll walk you through the 10 steps that actually occur in order to produce the budget that establishes the tax rate that's charged to the citizens and businesses of Okotoks. So the very first part of the cycle is referred to as the situation assessment. The situation assessment is where we take a look at what's happening in the world, what's happening in the province, what's happening in the economy. And in there, we examine things like the election cycle. So we know for the year 2019, we will have both a provincial and a federal election cycle. What commitments are they making to the municipality? What will that mean to funding? What is the overall economy like? What are council's strategic priorities? Where do they want to see strategic investments made? So we compile that situation assessment. We take a look at the forecasted economic outlook and then do our best estimate of what that will mean for potential funding coming in or not coming in to the municipality. So that's the base foundation that we start with. Once that situation assessment is complete, we move to phase 2, and that's the council guideline development. And in there, we speak to council about what is it that they see needs to be built into the upcoming budget. So what are the current pressures and priorities within the community? What are they hearing from citizens? What do they want the tax rate to be? What are they wanting the utility rate increases to be? What are the service level changes that they want to see? And remembering that council really has the authority to establish the service levels, it's important that we hear from them about the changes citizens want in the community so they can reflect that in the budget guidelines going forward. So that happens in the process of March and April. And in April, we actually take a report to council where council approves the budget guidelines. And that's really the direction to administration to say, here's how we want the budget built. It will give a 5-year operating forecast. So what do you want in year 1 of the budget? What do you want for the next 4 years? And it also does it on a 10-year capital. So what infrastructure projects, what recreation facilities, what do they want to see in that 10-year horizon? Once council approves those guidelines, that's really the baton toss then over to administration. And from that, we move into step 3 of the process, where we communicate to the organization, how are you going to implement the outcomes that council wants? And that's where the budget is implemented in each department. They will go through and forecast. Council wants to see these service level changes. We need to bring these facilities on board. Here's the improvements that need to be made. Here's the pressure points. We go through then from that point and develop our budgets. Once administration completes step 3 of the development of the planning proposals, they submit that, and that's where the roll-up occurs. We have 23 different business centers in the town, and from there we roll all that 23 bits of information together to produce a consolidated look. And that's where step 4 comes in, which is the financial analysis of options. What do we do there? We say, do we have enough money to achieve what the 23 business unit want? And are they the priorities that need to be funded? And that's where we go through those to say yes, no, maybe. And that's where we whittle all of those asks down to match what council's budget guidelines were. And it is then moves into step 5, where all of those options are presented to the strategic leadership team of the town of Okotoks. And that consists of the directors and the CAO and our corporate strategist, where we go through and make sure we've got absolute alignment with council's guidelines and what that submission is. A new step that we've added this year is step 6, and that's just reflective, I think, of where the Alberta economy is. So what we saw last year was council approved a 4% guideline, then reduced it to 3, and actually at the budget table reduced that to 2. Because that can cause some fluctuations in the budget process, what we've added now is this check-in with council, step 6, where we can say, hey, you said you wanted X percentage for a tax increase. The economy, where are we at? What have we heard from other levels of government about funding? Do we need to change that guideline or not? Have there been pressures that have arisen that we need to fund? So that allows us in September now to check in with council, make sure we've got those budget guidelines right, and they give us that next stamp of approval. Then we build the budget and work, and that's probably about another 4 to 6 weeks of work. And in October, November, we present those to the Finance and Audit Committee and Council. And there they get the preliminary walkthrough of the budget. They determine if it's got the right priorities, if it's got the right value for money proposition. And from that point in time, they will make a recommendation to either make amendments, adjust, approve. That takes us then to step 8 of the process, where we adjust it based upon the direction that came from the Finance and Audit Committee. And then we move usually at the first meeting in December to the council meeting. And at that first meeting in December, council will approve a budget. And at that point in time, you'll see us coming forward with other necessary legislative pieces to support the budget. You'll see us come forward with the rates and fees bylaw, and we'll talk a lot about what that tax impact would be to residents of Okotoks. Is that a 1% tax increase, 2%? How much does that mean to you as a resident? Because council's always concerned with the impact for citizens. So once we get through step 9 in December, where council approves the budget, that then establishes the service levels for the next year going forward and establishes our base budget. For example, in the 2019 budget year, we have basically a $56 million operating budget. So those are then approved by council in December, and then we go through a process of implementing, monitoring, and reporting. So that's step 10, and administration does that on a quarterly basis with council and the Finance and Audit Committee. So they have a current understanding of where we're at, any adjustments that need to be made through that. Important to note that the key guiding piece that influences the entire budget cycle is the strategic plan. So we always ensure vision alignment, that the strategic plan is directing the changes council wants to see in the budget, but also reflects the base budget and the service level council has committed to the community. So hopefully that gives you an explanation of the 10-step process that the town of Okotoks follows to produce the budget.